courtroom feels colder than it should, like the air itself is bracing for impact. People usually walk into court expecting facts, timelines, legal arguments. But today, everyone came for something else. Truth that's been rotting behind smiles and family unity for years. And the moment Meri steps forward, envelope in hand, everyone feels it. Something irreversible is about to happen. She stands alone, not beside Christine, not beside Janelle, and definitely not beside Kody and Robyn. Her shoulders are pulled back, her chin lifted just enough to show she's not frightened anymore. Maybe she was, for a long time, but not today. Today she looks like a woman who has carried a weighted secret so long she's become stronger because of it. Kody sits at the defendant's table, arms folded tight across his chest. His face is set in that familiar, I'm in control expression, the one viewers saw for years on their screens. But it's different now. His leg bounces under the table, jaw shifting, eyes darting anywhere except toward Meri. It's the body language of a man who knows exactly what envelope she's holding. Robyn sits beside him, clutching a tissue with both hands, even though she hasn't shed a real tear yet. She keeps glancing at the envelope like it's a ticking bomb. Because in some way, it is. Christine and Janelle sit together on the opposite side, posture rigid. They are not smiling. They're not relieved. They're waiting. Waiting for what they perhaps have suspected or even feared to finally surface. You can practically feel the ceiling lights flickering above. Not enough to be noticed consciously, but just enough to send a shiver through the room. The judge clears his throat. Mrs. Brown, you may begin with your opening statement. And Meri, she doesn't hesitate. She steps forward, heels tapping against the marble floor. Like a countdown, when she speaks, her voice is smooth, steady, controlled. Your Honor, she begins, this case may seem about finances, property, and the breakdown of a very public family. But what I am holding onto here. She raises the envelope. Transcends betrayal. It's beyond broken promises. This, she lays the envelope on the podium, is the truth Kody and Robyn have worked very hard to bury. A wave of whispers courses through the onlookers. Pages shuffle. Hands cover mouths. Even Christine cocks her head slightly, her eyes narrowing in recognition. She knows this tone. It's a tone someone gets only when they're done being controlled. Robyn squirms uncomfortably, wringing the tissue. Your Honor, she begins, but the judge raises one hand. Mrs. Brown, please let the witness continue. Meri nods once, slowly. Thank you. This envelope is not just evidence, it's years of manipulation. Years of being told to keep quiet for the sake of the family. Years of being dismissed, minimized, ignored. But not anymore. Kody is scoffing, leaning toward the microphone. Oh, please, Meri. The gavel cracks through the room. Mr. Brown, speak out of turn again, and I will hold you in contempt. Kody collapses back in his chair, his jaw working. Still, he can't believe this is out of his hands. Meri pulls another folded document from her pocket, not from the envelope, but something older. Edges yellowed, handwriting faded. She smooths it across the podium with a kind of reverence. This, she says, is a promise Kody made years ago. Something he wrote in his own hand. A pact between all 4 wives. A pact he broke in ways none of us understood at the time. Christine's eyes widen. Janelle straightens. Robyn pales. The bailiff carries the document over to the judge, who adjusts his glasses and begins reading. His eyebrows elevate slightly, just enough to reveal that whatever's there is not trivial. Meri keeps going, her voice softer now, heavier with memory. For so long, I believed the problem was me. That if I was more patient, more supportive, more quiet, things would get better. But instead, Kody slowly moved everything, money, decisions, power, into one household. And the rest of us were left to wonder why we were no longer family. Robyn finally snaps, her voice shaking. That's not true. You know that's not. Christine's head whips around to her. Robyn, stop. It's not loud. It's not aggressive. It's firm. Full of years, swallowing anger until it calcified into clarity. Robyn shuts her mouth, staring down. The judge finishes reading and looks up. Mrs. Brown, this document would seem to indicate some kind of financial impropriety. Gasps ripple around the courtroom. Robyn's hand flies to her chest. Kody stands abruptly, his fists hitting the table. This is ridiculous. Sit down, barks the judge. And this time, he does. Meri takes a deep breath and turns toward the witness stand. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like to call Christine Brown. Christine rises immediately. Her chin is lifted, but her hands shake just slightly, a tremor from a decade of emotional exhaustion. She swears in, sits, and meets Meri's eyes with a silent understanding. Meri begins. Christine, when did you first suspect Kody and Robyn were hiding financial activity from the rest of us? Christine doesn't flinch. The day I saw the bank statements. She says this calmly, but there's a flicker in her eyes. But it wasn't the money that broke me. It was the secrecy, the favoritism, the lies. Watching him build a life with Robyn, while ours fell apart. Robyn shakes her head violently. You don't understand. Christine cuts her off with just a look that says, you had everything. Don't pretend you didn't know why. Meri steps closer. Christine, did you ever overhear Kody say anything that suggested he had emotionally or legally separated himself from the rest of us? The memory stings her immediately. You can see it in her eyes. Yes, she says in a hushed tone. One night, I heard him tell Robyn, the family doesn't matter anymore. Only my future matters. The courtroom falls into a stunned hush. Even I can feel it, that wallop of sorrow mixed with clarity. Kody buries his head in his hands. Robyn looks at him, her eyes narrowed and betrayed. Janelle shuts her eyes, as if finally hearing confirmation of something she'd long feared. Meri nods, her expression unreadable. Your Honor, she says, turning toward the judge. With the court's permission, I'd like to present the contents of the envelope. Robyn bolts upright. No. I mean, no, that won't be necessary. Kody grasps her wrist, whispering sharply, but she pulls away. The judge gestures serenely. Proceed, Mrs. Brown. Meri grasps the envelope with both hands, slowly, deliberately. She opens it, sliding out a set of 4 crisp documents. The noise in the courtroom dies completely. Robyn starts to cry hard this time. Her shoulders are shaking, tears streaming down her face as she looks imploringly at Kody, who won't look at her. Meri lays the documents on the podium. These, she says quietly, are DNA results. A ripple of shock runs like an electric current around the room. The judge leans forward. Christine clutches the stand for support. Oh my God, Janelle whispers. Kody's face goes white. Robyn's sob catches in her throat. Meri lifts the first page. Her voice trembles, not from fear, but because the truth weighs heavier out loud. She inhales, and just as she is about to read the name, the courtroom doors swung open. Everyone turns. A man steps through. A man no one expected. A man who has no business being here. The judge's gavel struck sharply, and the sound echoed through the room like a warning shot. Everyone shifted. Robyn straightened her posture. Kody tried to look confident, but his knee was bouncing uncontrollably under the table. And Meri, Meri didn't move an inch. She just kept her eyes fixed on the envelope in front of her. The same envelope that had turned this courtroom into a war zone. "Mrs. Brown," the judge said calmly, though his eyes betrayed curiosity. "You requested that before we proceed with testimony, a piece of evidence be entered. You may present it." But Meri didn't move. Not yet. She took a deep, quiet breath, the kind that tells you someone is about to shatter an entire world with a single sentence. Across the room, Janelle watched her carefully, sensing something much deeper brewing beneath the surface. Christine leaned forward, hands clasped together, praying silently that this wasn't going to become another explosion they couldn't put back together. Then finally, Meri spoke up. "Your Honor," she said, voice steady but filled with 20 years of suppressed fear and betrayal. "What's inside this envelope is not just evidence. It's the truth, and once it comes out, things will never, ever go back to the way they were." Kody rolled his eyes. "Here we go again," he muttered, loud enough for the microphones to catch. Meri didn't even look at him. "You've lied for years, Kody. To us, to the public, to this court. And today, it ends." Robyn shifted in her seat, her face tightening. She whispered something into Kody's ear, something that looked like a warning. Something like, "Stop talking. Don't screw this up." But Kody, being Kody, didn't really listen. "Your Honor, she's exaggerating. She's emotional. She's always emotional." "There is no truth in anything she brought." The judge arched a brow. "Mr. Brown, you'll have your turn." Kody leaned back, crossing his arms, trying to look relaxed. But the tremor in his jaw told a different story. Meri lifted the envelope again, slowly this time, almost ceremoniously, and walked it toward the judge. Every step she took felt like a countdown, a bomb ticking, a storm gathering. When the judge finally opened it, the entire room leaned forward, reporters clutching their notebooks, cameras zooming in, spectators holding their breath. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, each one dated, each one time-stamped, each one showing something the world had never seen with their own eyes. The first photo received the judge's stare full-on for a complete 10 seconds before he even reacted. "Meri," Christine whispered behind her hands. "Oh my God," Janelle had muttered under her breath. Robyn froze. And Kody. Kody stiffened, as if the bottom had been knocked out from under his feet. The judge lifted the first photograph, studying it like it was a piece of explosive evidence, which, in a way, it was. "Meri," he said slowly, "this appears to be correspondence between Mr. Brown and—" "Not just correspondence," Meri interrupted. "Arrangements, agreements, plans. This changes everything," a reporter whispered, head down, in the front row. Robyn immediately shook her head, panic rising. "Those are fake. They have to be. This is ridiculous." But Meri didn't flinch. "What's ridiculous is how confident you both were that you'd never be caught." Kody finally bolted forward, slamming his hand on the table. "Your Honor, those photos are taken out of context." The judge peered over his glasses. "Mr. Brown, remain seated." But Kody couldn't sit. His face grew red, not from anger, but from the realization that the one thing he never wanted exposed was now spread out on the judge's desk for everyone to see. Meri's voice cracked for the first time, just slightly. "Do you remember the night I confronted you, Kody, in 2019, when I asked if something was going on behind the scenes, when I begged you to tell me the truth before the family fell apart?" Kody swallowed hard. I told you that nothing was going on. Meri nodded slowly. Exactly. Finally, Janelle spoke up. Meri, what are we looking at exactly? Meri turned to her, eyes filled with the pain of carrying a secret too heavy for too long. The truth about how long this marriage had been over, she said. The truth about where such favoritism really started. And the truth about what Kody and Robyn were planning, years before any of us knew. Christine covered her mouth. She knew. She finally knew why so many signs didn't add up, why the rules suddenly changed, why all the excuses never made sense. He withdrew a document from the envelope, the one with the signatures. That wasn't fake. The signatures weren't fake. The timestamps weren't fake. Mr. Brown, the judge said carefully, this appears to be documentation for a private agreement made outside of your plural marriage, including relocation plans, custody arrangements, financial transfers, and a legal separation. Meri said quietly. The courtroom erupted. Murmurs exploded into gasps. One reporter shouted, "Is this real?" Another said, "This is bigger than anything from the show." Kody's face completely lost its color. Robyn grasped his arm, but he shook her off. "That is not a legal separation," he yelled. That's just—" Meri cut him off. "A draft you never intended us to see. A draft you were hoping to finalize once you got everything you wanted from us financially." Robyn's eyes would widen. "That's a lie." But Meri wasn't done. "You manipulated every one of us," she said, turning slowly to look at Kody. "You pushed us away. You isolated us. You made us believe we were the problem, all while building a life with Robyn behind closed doors that you never planned to share." The judge took one deep breath. "Mrs. Brown, how long have you had this evidence?" 4 years, she replied softly. Janelle sprang from her chair. 4 years. "And you didn't tell us?" Meri shook her head. "Because I wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, he'd come forward on his own, that he'd apologize, that he'd stop pretending the show version of our family was real." Christine stood next. "Then why now? Why bring it out in court?" Meri's eyes sparkled. "Because he threatened my integrity. And worse, he threatened my daughter's place in this family. I won't let him rewrite history anymore." The courtroom hushed once more. The judge leaned back in his chair, assimilating. "Mr. Brown," he said calmly, "these documents, if authenticated, significantly contradict your sworn statements." Kody opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Robyn tried to speak for him. "Your Honor, this is being blown out of proportion." "Brown," the judge interrupted sharply, "I advise you not to speak unless addressed." Robyn sank back, fuming. Slowly, Meri sat, the trembling of her hands, not from fear, but from release. For the first time in years, she wasn't holding on to the truth by herself. Christine leaned over the aisle and tapped Meri's shoulder. Janelle nodded softly, a gesture of solidarity. And Kody stared at the envelope like it was the weapon that finally pierced the armor he thought was indestructible. The judge gathered the documents. "We will recess for 30 minutes while these are reviewed. Court is adjourned." The gavel fell again. Reporters bolted toward the doors to transmit the biggest story of the Brown family's entire history. Kody angrily crammed his papers into the bag, whispering to Robyn, "She's trying to destroy us." Robyn narrowed her eyes, shooting daggers at Meri. "She won't succeed." But Meri just stood there and exhaled heavily, whispering under her breath. The hallway, outside the courtroom, felt like a battlefield, holding its breath. Reporters swarmed like hornets. Camera flashes exploding, microphones waving, everyone trying to capture even a single expression from any member of the Brown family. But security held them back. creating a narrow corridor where tension thickened with every second. Meri went into the hall first. For a moment, the world went completely silent. Not because it actually did, but because everyone was too stunned to react. She had just changed the entire narrative of the Brown family with one envelope. One set of documents, one truth that had been buried beneath years of denial. Then the chaos erupted when the people finally got their voices back. Meri, is the evidence real? Meri, how long has this been going on? Did Kody know you had the documents? Does this prove the favoritism rumors? But she did not answer anyone, did not even glance at the reporters, but moved to a vacant bench against the wall and sat down, like someone who had finally laid down a heavy suitcase she had been toting across a desert. Christine and Janelle followed her out, but they didn't sit right away. They hovered near her, watching her closely, like they weren't sure whether she was relieved or on the verge of collapsing. Janelle spoke first. Meri, why didn't you tell us? Not even once? Meri rubbed her palm over her forehead. Because you weren't ready to hear it. None of us were. We were still trying to save something that was already dead. Christine crouched before her. But 4 years, Mère. You carried this for 4 years. Meri nodded. I didn't want to be the one to destroy the family. Christine's voice cracked, but Kody did that, not you. Meri said to her with tired eyes, I know that now. Before they could continue, the doors at the far end of the hall burst open and Kody stormed out, like a man ready to fight an entire war with his bare hands. His hair was wild, his tie crooked, his face twisted in a blend of rage and panic. Robyn followed him, frantically whispering, attempting to soothe him. However, he shrugged her off and pointed directly at Meri. You think this is going to save you? He shouted across the hallway. You think dragging our private documents into court is going to fix your image? Because that's all this is. You trying to look like a victim. Reporters crowded forward. Security moved in, ready to intervene between them. But Meri didn't stand. She didn't raise her voice. She simply looked at him with a calmness that made Kody even angrier. Kody, she said quietly, this isn't about my image. It's about the truth. Honesty, he growled. You kept this hidden for years. And what were you doing for years? Meri asked back. Drafting secret agreements with Robyn behind our backs. Planning custody arrangements that didn't include the rest of your children. Negotiating property splits without telling the family. Robyn stepped forward suddenly, her hands shaking. That was old planning. It meant nothing. We never even. Christine cut her off abruptly. Robyn, don't lie, please. For once, just stop. Tears welled up in Robyn's eyes in an instant. I am not lying. But the hallway had changed. The veneer had cracked. For the first time, Christine and Janelle weren't simply hurt. They were furious. Furious that they had spent years being branded the difficult ones, while the truth rotted underneath the surface. Christine straightened fully, pointing at Kody squarely. You blamed us for everything, she said, her voice fierce but steady. You said we were pulling away from you. You said we were jealous of Robyn. You said we misunderstood. But all this time, you were preparing an exit strategy without us. Kody's lip curled. You don't understand anything. No, Christine said, stepping closer to him. No, you don't understand anything. You don't understand fairness. You don't understand accountability. And you don't understand the meaning of a plural marriage. Janelle, placid but firm, chimed in. You lied under oath today, and that's not on Meri, that's on you. Robyn looked like she might cry. We never meant to hurt anyone. Meri finally looked up at her. But you did, and instead of owning up to it, you doubled down. You blamed us for the consequences of choices you made, choices you concealed. Kody shook his head vigorously. This is a setup. You all got together and planned this to attack me. Christine laughed softly, the sad, exhausted laugh of a person when they've reached their emotional breaking point. Believe me, Kody, she said. If we had planned anything, it would have been a lot more coordinated than this. Meri finally stood up, and the reporters fell silent again. She faced Kody squarely. You pushed us out of the family one by one, she said. And when we left, you acted like we betrayed you. But the truth is, you had already left us long before we ever walked away. Even Kody was at a loss for words for a moment. Robyn looked at him, eyes wide, hoping he'd say something to regain control. But he was frozen. Because deep down, somewhere beneath all the ego and excuses, he knew Meri was right. You'll regret this, he whispered. Meri shook her head. I don't regret telling the truth. I regret waiting so long. Just then, a court clerk opened the door. Parties for Brown versus Brown, she called out hesitantly. We're ready to resume. The whole hallway froze. Christine whispered to Meri, Are you ready for this? Meri nodded. I've been ready for years. Janelle placed a hand on her shoulder. Whatever happens in there, you're not alone. The women walked back toward the courtroom, a united front, stronger than they had ever been in the entire history of their plural marriage. Kody watched them go, breathing heavily, anger simmering beneath his skin. He leaned toward Robyn. You better not say a word, he hissed. Not one. Robyn swallowed hard and nodded. They followed behind the other wives, but their steps were different, heavier, uncertain, and filled with dread. When everyone entered the courtroom again, the atmosphere was different. Something had shifted. Power had shifted. The judge was already reviewing the documents, his expression unreadable but not indifferent. He took his job seriously. Evidence was evidence. Lies were lies. As the wives all sat down on one side of the courtroom, Kody and Robyn on the other, the judge lifted his head. This, he began, tapping the documents, changes the direction of this case significantly. The whole room held its breath. These drafts actually denote long-term planning of a separation, property division, and custodial restructuring. They also deny prior sworn statements of Mr. Brown as to timeline, intent, and family communication. Kody visibly blanched. Robyn's eyes welled again. Meri sat tall. The judge continued. Before I make any determination, I will give each party the opportunity to respond to the authenticity and context of these documents. He paused. Mrs. Brown, he looked directly at Meri. You will speak first. Slowly she stood, turning every camera in the room toward her. Every eye frozen on her. Meri stood in front of the judge, toward the audience, and finally to the man who had shaped her existence for decades. Kody, she said softly, I didn't bring this evidence to destroy you. I brought it because for the first time in our whole marriage, I'm choosing me. And I'm choosing the truth. And when this is over, the world will finally know who actually walked away from this family, and who was pushed in this family. The judge brought the gavel down sharply. Order, and just like that, the war inside the courtroom had officially begun. The courtroom felt colder when Meri finished speaking, like someone had opened a window and let December air sweep through the room. Even the judge paused, letting the gravity of her final words settle over everyone. Kody shifted in his seat, jaw clenching, fists tightening, eyes darting around like he was searching for an exit. Or a version of reality, where this moment wasn't happening. Robyn reached for his arm, but he pulled it back sharply, refusing her comfort. The judge cleared his voice. "Thank you, Mrs. Brown."
"Please, take a seat." Meri sat down slowly, her heart pounding, but her expression controlled. Christine gave her a subtle nod of support. Janelle rested a steady hand on her back. For the first time in years, Meri wasn't just standing up for herself, she was being backed. The judge turned his gaze to the other side of the courtroom.
"Mr. Brown, you may answer." A thick silence hung over the room as Kody stood.
His face was flushed, but not with embarrassment, with pure, seething anger, fighting to maintain a veneer of dignity. He buttoned his suit jacket, exhaled, and looked the judge in the eye.
"Your Honor," he began, forcing calm into his voice.
"What you heard just now is a sensationalized version of a marriage falling apart. I am still trying, to protect my family from chaos, from division, from lies." Christine whispered under her breath, "You can't even stop lying in front of a judge." Kody pretended not to hear her, but the slight twitch in his eye said otherwise. "The documents Meri submitted," he continued, "were preliminary, exploratory notes. Discussions that never materialized, never became formal, never even left the idea stage. I was overwhelmed. I was trying to be a responsible husband to 4 wives, a father to many children, and a provider. Anyone in my position could have been confused, worried, desperate to plan." He paused for effect. "But planning is not betrayal. Thinking ahead is not a crime." Meri's breath hitched, not because she believed him, but because she recognized the tactic. He was doing it again, twisting truth into self-defense, painting himself as the misunderstood hero. The judge steepled his fingers. "Mr. Brown, these notes include signatures, dates, outlines for splitting property, revised custodial responsibilities, meetings held with an attorney." Kody interrupted. "Held years ago, before anything was decided." The judge raised a hand. "Mr. Brown, do not interrupt me." Kody was silenced with that, but the resentment smoldered in his eyes. "These documents," the judge continued, "indicate intent, substantial intent. And they are inconsistent with your testimony under oath." Robyn leaned forward suddenly. "Your Honor, please, may I speak?" Her voice shook, not with fear, but with desperation. "Mrs. Brown, you will have your chance." She slumped back in her chair, tears welling. Kody swallowed hard, then addressed the judge again. "I was trying to prepare for possibilities. That's all. I wasn't trying to hide anything. I was trying to manage a complex family situation." From the plaintiff's side, Christine let out a soft, choked laugh. "Complex?" she muttered. "You mean convenient." The judge looked over at her. "Let's keep order, Miss Brown." Christine nodded, but it was clear that steam was building inside her. Pressure that would crack soon. And it did. Kody continued. "Everyone else here walked away. They left me. They abandoned the plural marriage. They turned their backs on family values. I was the only one still holding on." Meri stood up again, unable to stay silent. "That's not true." There was murmuring in the courtroom. The judge sighed, but nodded for her to continue. "You may respond." Meri's voice was steady, but thick with emotion. "You didn't hold on, Kody. You let go years ago. We stayed, trying to fix what you already threw away. And these documents." She gestured to the evidence stack. "Prove it." You weren't preparing for possibilities. You were preparing a future that didn't include us. Janelle stood too, backing her. You kept us in marriages you were already checking out of, Kody. We stayed loyal to a bond you'd broken long before we realized it. Christine stood up last, her voice trembling with restrained anger. You weren't planning for the family. You were planning for yourself and Robyn, and you know it. Kody stared at her with a mixture of anger and disbelief. This is ridiculous. You're twisting my intentions. You're trying to paint me as the villain to justify your selfish choices. Christine's temper flashed. My selfish choices? My choices? She stepped forward, hands trembling. I stayed in that marriage while you ignored me for years. You treated me like I was invisible. When I finally found the courage to leave, you called me calculating, manipulative, disloyal. But now we see the truth. You were making backdoor plans all along. Robyn burst into tears. That's not fair. You're ganging up on him. Christine turned to her sharply. You think this is ganging up? This is the first time we've been able to speak without being shut down by your tears. Robyn gasped softly, hurt, but Christine wasn't finished. You protected him from accountability. You built a bubble around him. And while he was telling the world we were the broken ones, he was hiding the cracks he caused. The judge rapped the gavel. Order! Order in the court! But emotions had already overflowed. The gavel was powerless against decades of hurt, finally rising to the surface. The judge waited for silence again. Mrs. Brown, he said, turning to Robyn, it is your turn to respond. Robyn wiped her cheeks with shaking hands, her voice small. I didn't know about all the paperwork. I swear I didn't. Kody told me it was just early planning, not something concrete. I thought we were doing what was best for everyone. She sniffed loudly. I feel like everyone thinks I'm the mastermind behind everything bad that happened. But I'm not. I just wanted harmony. I just wanted the family to stay together. Christine whispered to Janelle. Her version of harmony meant everyone bending around her. The judge sat back, surveying Robyn closely. Mrs. Brown, he said slowly, did you sign any documents related to separation planning? Robyn froze. Her eyes widened. Her lips parted, but no words came out. The judge repeated, did you sign any documents? Robyn's voice was barely above a whisper. Yes. A gasp seemed to ripple across the courtroom like a shockwave. Kody's head whipped toward her in disbelief. You what? He hissed. Robyn's hands shook violently. I signed them because you told me it was a contingency. You said the other wives didn't care anymore. You said they weren't committed. You said we needed a plan, just in case everything fell apart. You weren't supposed to say that here, Kody barked. The judge raised the gavel again. Brown. Kody sank back into his seat, but the damage was done. Color was siphoned from his face. Christine exhaled in stunned disbelief. Janelle covered her mouth, eyes widening. Meri closed her eyes, whispering softly under her breath. There it is. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Brown, your admission confirms that the documents were more than hypothetical considerations, and it contradicts earlier testimony. Robyn burst into irrepressible sobs. Kody slumped back, defeated, and for the first time, exposed. He spoke with all parties at once. These revelations require a deeper investigation. I will be ordering a full review of communications, draft agreements, financial planning, and any related documentation from the last 5 years. He stopped. And, depending on what is uncovered, perjury charges may be considered. Kody's head snapped up. Perjury. What's that? Enough, Mr. Brown. The courtroom sat frozen, suspended in disbelief. Everything felt different. The judge gathered his papers. We will stand in recess until tomorrow morning. Court is adjourned. The gavel struck. Kody rose slowly, his face drained and hollow. Robyn buried her face in her hands. Meri stood firm. Christine and Janelle flanked her, solid as stone. As they walked out of the courtroom, reporters surged toward them. But for once, none of the wives looked shaken. They appeared powerful, united, ready. But behind them, Kody whispered something that would set fire to tomorrow's hearing. Meri, if you think this means you've won, you have no idea what's coming. Night fell over Flagstaff like a heavy curtain, stretching across the sky and pulling shadows over every rooftop. But inside Meri's house, no one was sleeping. The energy was electric, yet not chaotic, not panicked, but deep, focused. Janelle paced near the window, arms crossed, replaying the court hearing over and over in her head. Christine sat at the dining table, tapping her nails anxiously. Meri, surprisingly calm, stood at the kitchen counter, sipping tea, as though preparing for the storm that tomorrow would bring. You know he's planning something, Christine finally said, breaking the silence. The way he glared at you. I've never seen him look at anyone like that. Meri nodded. He's desperate, and desperate people make dangerous choices. Janelle turned sharply, worry etched across her face. Do you think he'll try to bring up stuff from our pasts? Twist it. Make us look unstable. Christine laughed scornfully. He's already tried that in the media. It didn't work. But in court, Janelle whispered, the stakes are different. The room fell silent once more. Meri set down her mug. Tomorrow we stay unified. No cracks, no hesitation. He feeds on hesitation. Christine raised her head. You think he'll bring witnesses? Meri frowned. If he does, they won't be neutral ones. Janelle sat down finally, sighing deeply. I just want this to end. I'm exhausted. Christine leaned her head on Janelle's shoulder. We're almost there. Meri watched them quietly, a faint smile pulling at her lips. We're more together now than we ever were during the marriage. Christine laughed. Isn't that ironic? But then her smile faded. You're ready for tomorrow, right? She asked Meri. Meri nodded. I've been waiting for this for years. The next morning, before sunrise, the courthouse was already surrounded. Reporters warmed their hands on cups of coffee, their breath clouding the cold air. Camera crews set up lights. Viewers from across the country tuned in, hungry for what was now being called the Brown family trial, Day of Truth. Inside the courtroom, thick tension, like fog, clung in the air as everyone waited. Meri entered first, shoulders squared, expression calm. Christine and Janelle walked beside her, forming a united front that spoke louder than any words. Minutes later, the doors burst open. Kody stormed in, wearing a dark suit, face stern, jaw locked. Robyn followed behind him, eyes already red, clutching tissues like armor. But today felt very different. Kody came carrying a thick file. Christine whispered, There it is. His ambush. The bailiff called out, All rise, and the courtroom stood as the judge entered. He settled into his chair, glasses perched low on his nose, eyes scanning the room, like he already sensed the emotional landmine he was about to step into. You may be seated. Everybody sat down. The judge opened the session calmly. Before we resume our examination of evidence, Mr. Brown indicated he wishes to submit new material. Kody stood slowly, lifting the heavy file as though it were a trophy. Yes, Your Honor. I have here a series of documents, statements, messages, screenshots, and financial logs that paint a much fuller picture of this family dynamic. Evidence the court needs to see. Christine growled, "Here we go." Janelle rolled her eyes. He always collects dirt. But Meri didn't flinch. The judge gestured. "Bring them forward." Kody handed it to the bailiff, who set it down on the judge's desk. The judge flipped it open, then raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Brown, many of these pages appear to be personal journal entries from your wives, including entries dated over a decade ago." A murmur ran through the courtroom. Christine's face drained. "He took those out of my storage box." Janelle whispered in horror, "That's from my private notebook." "How did he—" Meri closed her eyes. "He kept everything, even then." Kody lifted his chin proudly. "Your Honor, these journals show instability, resentment, emotional manipulation." Christine shot to her feet. "Those were written during some of the darkest years of my life. You can't weaponize my pain." Robyn stood too, voice trembling. "Christine, we're not trying to weaponize anything." Christine pointed at her sharply. "Don't you dare pretend innocence. This has your fingerprints all over it." Robyn cried even harder. "I didn't know he brought them." But even the judge looked incredulous. He raised a hand. "Mr. Brown, this is highly questionable. Acquiring personal journals without consent raises legal and ethical concern." Kody snapped. "They're part of family property. They were left in the old house." "Because you refused to return them," Janelle exclaimed suddenly. A courtroom froze. It was rare for Janelle to raise her voice. Even Kody looked surprised. "You promised you'd ship our boxes," she continued, voice trembling with anger. "And instead you kept them. I thought you just forgot. But you didn't forget. You kept them on purpose. You kept everything." Kody opened his mouth to protest, but the judge talked over him. "I will determine if any of this is admissible. But for now, we proceed carefully." He came back to Meri. "Mrs. Brown, you may comment first." Everyone waited. Meri didn't stand immediately. She took a breath, then another, then finally rose slowly, with a calmness that felt unnervingly powerful. "Your Honor," she began softly, "those journals are real. The pain in them is real. The confusion, the fear, the loneliness. Every word is real." Kody smirked, triumphant. "But," Meri continued, turning toward him, "they don't tell the story he thinks they tell." The smirk was gone. "They show women trying to survive a collapsing marriage. Women trying to keep a family together while being neglected, dismissed, and blamed for cracks they didn't create." Christine wiped a tear. Janelle nodded glassily. Meri took another step forward. "These journals don't make us look unstable. They make us look human. And they show what long-term emotional abandonment looks like when someone pretends everything is fine." Her voice deepened. "Kody is not outing us. He is outing the dynamics he created." A wave of emotion swept through the room. Robyn sank into her seat. Kody clenched his fists. The judge watched Meri intently. She wasn't done. "Your Honor, if you want to see the truth, then show everything. Not just our journals, but also Kody's messages, his conversations, his financial records, his secret planning documents. Let's put all of it on the table." Again, the courtroom gasped. Kody tensed up. "You don't know what you're talking about." Meri stared right at him, not blinking.
Oh, I know more than you think.
Christine whispered. Oh my God, does she have more proof?
Janelle clutched her hand. She does. I can tell she does. The judge cleared his throat. Mrs. Sir.
Brown, are you suggesting additional materials exist? Meri nodded. Yes, and they prove the full timeline of events.
Kody exploded. This is a witch hunt.
Meri replied calmly. Then let the evidence speak for itself. For a moment, no one moved.
Then he surged forward, eyes sharp.
Mrs. Brown, do you have these materials with you?
Meri lifted a small black USB drive from her pocket. Robyn gasped. Kody's face went white. This, Meri said gravely, is everything. The room exploded into chaos. Reporters stood. People shouted. The judge was banging the gavel relentlessly. Order! Order! But nothing could muffle the shock which just stroked the room. Kody lunged forward, slamming his hands on the table. Without wincing, she stared him right back. You wanted the whole story told, she said, very softly.
So here it is. The judge extended his hand. Meri, please bring the drive to the bench. Slowly, she approached him, her every step echoing in the dead-silent courtroom.
Christine whispered, "This is it."
Janelle breathed out shakily.
Robyn cried harder.
Slowly, defeated, Kody sat down, and his eyes began to burn.
Meri put the USB into the judge's hand, and the judge said these words, which changed everything. This evidence will be reviewed in private before being introduced into the record. He lifted his gaze, and, depending on what is contained, tomorrow may be the final day of this trial. Electricity hummed in the court. Christine clutched Meri's arm. The tears fell as Janelle exhaled. Kody leaned back, whispering just loud enough for Meri to hear. You think you have killed me, but you just declared war. Meri whispered back, No, Kody.
I ended the war you created.
And as the judge adjourned the session,